what it is providing possibly, maybe some of the drawbacks, but certainly some of the opportunities. I think a positive mindset is at least my hope in sharing some of this stuff. So I've been a part of the roundtable group with the Forest Service that meets sort of in between the public sessions, and they've taken quite a bit of feedback from the community, but also then tried to engage the horseback riding group and the motorcycle group and the friends groups and all that sort of thing. And so this process has been pretty neat. Medicine Wheel, as you would probably expect, has been super involved. Corey's been at absolutely everything, as well as some of the other people involved with Medicine Wheel. So there's a lot of people that have gained a lot of knowledge about this, and yet as meetings happened last week, and as Clay kind of mentioned, as you run into people, there's a lot of people that don't know. So I'm assuming that in this crowd there are several of you that are near experts, and then there are several of you that might be complete novices in what's going on up on the screen. So I'll try to get through the basic stuff quickly. The map is oriented correctly, and I kind of have to find myself when I'm up here backwards, and hopefully you can hear me. But if you look carefully, here's Mount Buckhorn Trail, and then Seven Bridges comes into Mount Buckhorn Trail right here at the end, and then it makes the little switchback on Gold Camp Road, which is, Gold Camp Road is the ... that then comes out this way, right? So Mount Buckhorn goes up here. So this is existing Mount Buckhorn, this is existing, and the suggestion is take Captain Jack's and close the access, the little switchback that goes down to the creek above the 666 waterfall, and then it goes on up to Jones Park. So you close this and make a new route where Captain Jack's would come across the south side of Caneo and connect to Seven Bridges. So does that make sense as a potential new section? What shouldn't make sense is, but isn't that the side of a hill that's like falling down? Isn't that like a big street field? Okay, so I thought the same thing, and having done a couple races up in here and had to figure out weird things like where would a helicopter land if somebody got hurt really bad, I've learned where the rocks and stones are, not only as a rider, but also as someone who was trying to like figure out some safety stuff for bike things. And so I've had to work with the Forest Service quite a bit and watch all this stuff sort of come together. And I thought the same thing. I said, this whole side of Caneo is a terrible idea. Why would you put a trail there? And so they presented these research documents on the guy who actually designed these trails and made the ideas for, you know, connecting from here across the front, and then doing this whole new section all the way up to 701, which is also called Foresters. Am I correct? Or that's commonly known as Foresters. Right. Yes. Okay. So he was the one that kind of put all this together. He's actually gone out and marked it, and so I had this report, and it has his contact information on the back. So I called him and I asked him questions. And as a teacher, it was kind of, you know, I can ask some questions, I can figure this out. So I asked him some more questions, and 2 hours later, he was still telling me stuff about how, oddly enough, in our decomposed granite, we have a lot of clay. And I don't know where the clay comes from, because it's a sedimentary thing, but oddly there's clay. And so these trails hold on the side of the hill. Trails do, like trail beds, once they get laid in, they hold on the side of the hill better than we think. For example, Buckhorn, which isn't a system trail yet. Buckhorn, that's weird, isn't that weird? Buckhorn's not a system trail, like it's been there forever. Anyway, so Buckhorn's not a system trail, but it washes off vertically in places where there's the runoff points, but then the rest of it sort of just sits there. And unless you have a long slope that's in the same direction, it's not even really rutted out in the center of that bad. Maybe after a rain, then you guys all go ride your bikes up it, and it smashes itself back out, and it's fine. So our trail, and he was kind of amazed by the way that our trails can get blown to pieces and then sort of come back together. And so he thinks that a trail across here would work, and he's been doing this all his life, and so everybody is, you know, taking his word for it. And he's probably right that at the correct grade, you can make a sustainable trail across there. It's just not what we would think, right? So anyway, so that's a little explanation for why this comes across the front. Then, Seven Bridges, from this point, you're on the slope just a teeny bit more, and then as soon as you cross into this space, which is utilities land, okay? As soon as you cross into here, you are in a really cool little meadow that currently has 2 trails going on either side of the creek. And the existing pipeline trail is this line. The new trail would come in. Why not use the existing one? That was another question. Well, the existing trail is flat right here, which nobody cares that it's flat so much, but Because you're on a flat grade, instead of descending, then you descend more steeply later. So if you lose some of that elevation sooner, then you don't have as much steepness at other points, thus less erosion. So that's his rationale for changing some of the route in this little valley, getting rid of this cutoff trail. And again, if you're not familiar with this area right now, I'm probably speaking mumbo jumbo to you, but those of you who've ridden these trails or know this area will know this little cutoff trail right here. Straight down the fall line, doesn't need to be there in terms of sustainability. It's a who even knows where it came from? Some mule got ticked off and went the wrong way, and they had to go find it, and now there's a motorcycle trail. I don't know. So then it comes back across. There's a natural geologic feature right here. It's called a volcanic dike, and it's a ridge line of rocks that's pretty difficult to get through. So you switch back up to it. He found a place that was sort of the least intrusive to get through, and hopped up through there, and then it kind of falls around on the inside of a ridge line, comes back around and reconnects with foresters. Why all this new section? Why not leave 720? Right? 720 is kind of fun. If you've never ridden this section of trail, you just missed out because it's gone. I kind of wish they wouldn't do that, and so you can make that as a suggestion that they maybe don't get rid of all of it, but that's my opinion. This trail has some really serious erosion right here, and everything from about the laser pointer over to here, everything right in here is all on a ridgeline that drains into the creek, and so they're really trying to get stuff out of that creek drainage. And then the other caveat is, one of his mandates for making these new trails was not the Forest Service, but the utilities, their lawyers and whatnot, they wanted as little mileage of trail in their space as possible where this fish is concerned, because then that sets them up for litigation in the future, and so they would like to kind of push it out to the side. So that's one of the reasons this sort of skirts the edge. So that's what the new Captain Jacks would be, and it's a whole bunch of new stuff. And one of the reasons that we're all here is to learn about this and why sign up for B. Well, because you're going to get to keep trail access. But as we'll maybe have to talk about a little bit later, who's going to build that thing right there? Because it can't be just the motorcycle guys, and they're here. But they've put $1 million, well, I don't know if it's $1 million, $500,000 for sure. Several quotes of at least $500,000 they've spent in this drainage trying to keep it going. And we've all benefited. But the new stuff isn't going to get done by just that. So here's this new thing. It's a huge undertaking. That's the main new thing. Another thing with the proposal for B is at the top of Buckhorn, going down, would be a trail that will connect to 666 below the waterfall area, and it would be a connector. This is also already pinned, so he's gone up with little fuzzies. I have no clue what they're called. They're just colored fuzzies in my opinion. And he's stuck them in the ground already for both of these trails. And before it was illegal to be there, at least that's what I'm not. Before it was illegal to be there, I went up with my puppy one afternoon, and we hiked this. If that ever gets put in, that will be very fun. That's a very cool sort of topography right there. But it's also going to be a real pain in the neck to build. And so again, who's going to put that in there? You got a shovel? Because if you do, it might get used soon. Hopefully sooner than later. I don't know what the timelines are, but hopefully sooner than later, right? So that's some of the new stuff. Now, why B instead of C? Being more specific, C eliminates everything here. All of this is gone if C gets picked. And I don't know why C would get picked, but the Forest Service isn't going to change their vote just because a whole bunch of people say they want C. Because the Forest Service's recommendation is already B. So when you sign on the dotted line, I want to support B, you've actually already signed on for what they want to do. They want you to do B. They want the motorcycle group to pick B. Their proposed action is B. But C exists to answer the question, well, what about all the high drive was all blown to pieces, and what about all the erosion off the 666 trail, and is that going to cause further damage to the trout, and what's going on with 666 and Palmer Trail and some of those things? Is that causing further issues? Hopefully it will be the action of whoever is litigating anything to allow for B to stay, because the fish, just so you can be aware of what's happening with the fish live from the waterfall up. The purified, rarefied greenback cutthroat trout, they live above the waterfall. And the waterfall is big enough that you're not going to get invasive species going up there, so don't go fishing and then take your weird fish up there and mess with the little greenbacks. If you've never seen a greenback cutthroat trout, then I'll kind of digress off this, but I'll let you ask some questions in a second. If you've never seen a greenback cutthroat trout, then I've walked along these creeks long enough in kind of response to a post I saw on MTBR where somebody was saying, I've never seen them, they don't exist, it's a myth. Really? There's like hundreds of them up there apparently, so let's go see if we can see one. So I was hiking up there again with dogs and hiking go together, and I saw one kind of in the shadows like a fisherman would do. Not really that guy, but I did get to see one. Awesome. They don't have little stripes on the side, and they're not brown. They're greenbacks, and they're cool looking, and they're definitely worth taking care of. So I feel like I'm going to just speak to a choir for a second. I don't know very many people that are motorcyclists that like to just go tear up the trails, and I don't know very many people that are bicyclists that just like to go tear up the trails. I don't know very many people. Now I know there are exceptions in all groups, but I don't know very many of us on either side of this whole two-wheel thing that don't want the fish to be okay. We live in Colorado, this is our backyard, so we don't want to mess up our backyard. And I think it's odd that there are people in the community that have the perspective that mountain bikers are just going too fast, that motorcyclists are out there making too much noise, and they're definitely going too fast, uphill, jerks. And so these people must be out to ruin nature. Now these people maybe love it more. So I think there's a strong argument that the fish is worth protecting. If the trail needs to be moved or needs to be gone to take care of the fish, and this is the only place currently where this fish of its genetic purity, the only place where it currently is in Colorado, in the wild. There's a whole bunch of them in Leadville, and they'd like to reintroduce them. And so what if, among a lot of what ifs that might come up tonight, what if we as a group and as a mankind and as a front range community got to be a part of like helping a species kind of come back? I'm okay with that. And I think it makes a good storyline in my classroom when my students ask, then I can look like a good environmentalist. But it's also pretty cool if we could have a hand in taking care of something, because a lot of times we kind of beat each other up over all the stuff we destroy, right? So I'm very supportive of B because it allows us to keep having access. I'm very supportive of B because it doesn't take away some of the hiking experiences at the bottom and the biking experiences at the bottom. B also allows for access to these climbing locations that some of the other proposals didn't really have in there. So there's a bunch of good things about B. That's most everything that is probably needed to be said as a baseline. So